Hello, interweb. It is I, once again, Mr. Hosking, here to continue our talks about the French Revolution. Today we're going to be talking about the Revolution bringing reform and terror to France. The Assembly reforms France. Again, last time we talked, we had the Estates General meet, and then the Third Estate decided to create a National Assembly and take over control of France, remove the power from the king, eventually overthrowing the king, capturing him, trying to escape, and bringing him back to Paris. Uh, the National Assembly sweeps away privileges of the nobility and clergy. Remember, the first major thing that they had was that they owned a large stake of the land. They owned about 30% of the land, and they took away that land from the nobility. They also forced nobility to start paying taxes. Remember, they were the group of people, the clergy and nobility, didn't pay any taxes up to this point. So now the National Assembly takes away that privilege that they have and allows the nobility and clergy to start paying taxes. They take control of Catholic Church, the farms, the land, and they start to give it to the people. And then Louis XVI is caught as he tries to run away from France. He's trying to escape the terror of the assembly, and the assembly captures him. And they basically put him in house arrest in the middle of Paris. We see some divisions caused by the National Assembly now. A new constitution ends the absolute monarchy. The Legislative Assembly is given all of the power to create laws in the country, but the problems remain, and the government splits into three separate groups. And you can see on your chart or on your guided notes, there's three large boxes here that have to be filled in. You might want to stop the video so that you can copy these boxes from this table. But really, when you think about politics in our country today, we have three different groups of people. We have Democrats, and we have moderates, and then we have Republicans, and Democrats would be similar to the radicals. We call them on the left, or on the left side of center. Well, the radicals started that idea. They were looking for massive changes in the country, just like Democrats in our country are looking for changes. And they sat on the left, so that's why they're called the left. Moderates are people in the middle. Really, in our country, they can be Democrat or Republican. They're not looking for enormous change. They're not looking for things to exactly stay the same, but they're looking for small and slow changes to take place. And conservatives, again, we call them Republicans or conservatives in our country as well. They want things to stay the same or even go back to the way they were. They have this idea that they don't necessarily want change. They want things to stay the same. And they sit on the right side of the room, and that's why we call them right wing or rightist mentality. Pause the video. Make sure you copy down everything in this table. It's pretty important. War and extreme measures. Fearing the loss of their own positions, the rest of Europe starts to freak out. They see this revolution taking place in the middle of France, the monarchy getting captured, getting kicked out of power, and everybody else in Europe that's a monarch starts to think, oh my goodness, this could happen in my country, and I don't want that to happen. So they start to get together and figure out how can we end this revolution in France and replace the revolution back with the king and solidify their power. This leads to the people of France, to that assembly, to declare war on some of the other countries in Europe, the first one being Austria. Louis XVI is imprisoned after a Paris mob raids the royal palace. He's thrown into jail. He's handcuffed along with his wife, Marie Antoinette. The September massacres are a time period where a bunch of Parisian mobs run through the streets, and they accuse anyone of being nobility, anyone of being in favor of the king taking control or remaining in control. They arrest those people. They're put onto a mock trial, and they are sent to the guillotine where they have their heads removed from their bodies in a very swift motion. In the summer of 1792, mobs are the real rulers of France, and it leads to eventually the trial of the king. And seen in this picture here, this is Louis XVI's head being shown to a mob of people in the middle of Paris who are cheering that his head has been removed from his body. Quite a gruesome sight. Even in the picture, you can kind of see the blood kind of dripping down. Not that appealing, especially I just had some breakfast, so I'm feeling a little sick about it. A lot of French soldiers have to join the military. There is no conscription. The government's not strong enough to have a draft, but people do join for France to fight against Austrian forces that were already invading France and almost reaching Paris. Terror grips all of France. Eventually, a gentleman with the name Maximilien Robespierre, one of my favorite people throughout history. He's a huge oxymoron in himself, and a great name to say. I'm into these French names, talking about like saying them. They just roll off your tongue. Maximilien Robespierre. Just try and say it. It feels good. It makes you happy on the inside. And he's a really interesting person. He gains control of the revolutionary government, and he deems that anyone who has power in the country, anybody that is powerful or believes in restoring the king or restoring the old power, the powerful people of the country should be removed from the country, should be executed, so that they are no longer a threat to the revolutionary government. So he starts to wipe out every trace of French nobility. If you had noble blood in your body, you are going to be executed according to Maximilien Robespierre. They institute what's known as the Reign of Terror. Close to 10,000 executions, and most of them are arbitrary. There's no rhyme or reason to why they're executing people. They would go into the former mayor's home and arrest him and accuse him of wanting to bring back a king and execute him. The terror ends with the execution of Robespierre, and this is why he's such a great oxymoron. If you think about Maximilien Robespierre, he's calling for everyone with power to be executed. So he executes 10,000 people, and then who has the most power in the country? Maximilien Robespierre does. And so what do? They execute him, because that's what you do to people in power. Once Maximilien Robespierre is killed, the revolutionary government is without leadership, and they're looking for somebody to take control. And a third new constitution gives power to the upper middle class, and the government finds a new general named Napoleon Bonaparte to lead the army and to protect France from its enemies. Giving the army to the control of Napoleon Bonaparte will eventually lead to Napoleon displacing the new government, the upper middle class government, and making himself the ruler. But that's for another day. I hope you have a great morning. Again, I'm Mr. Hosking, and I will talk to you soon.